All right, here we go. Let me see if I can resize this just a little bit. Is the audio okay as well?
Yeah, the audio is great. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, well, thanks for having us, of course. And what we'll be doing is we'll be doing a very brief presentation on Lean Library, what Lean Library does, what Lean Library, how Lean Library got founded, and Andrew will talk a little bit about the implementation of Lean Library at NHS Mersey Care and the impact that Lean Library has been having over there. And just a quick introduction from the both of us. My name is Johan Tilstra. I'm the original founder of Lean Library. And I used to be a librarian at Utrecht University Library. And there I was program manager for a program where we were trying to see how we should deal with patrons, students, researchers not starting out at the library anymore. One of the things that we discussed was whether we could do away with the discovery service, and another thing was that we came up with the idea of offering library services into the user's workflow, and that second idea is what we'll be talking about in the next 10 minutes or so. Andrew?
Hi, yeah, my name's Andrew Cheney and I'm the Evidence Services Lead, just the Library Manager at Mersey Care NHS Foundation Trust. I've worked there for over 10 years and my section of the talk will be kind of talk about the challenges that we faced as a service and the technology that we've used to kind of override these problems.
Excellent. So yeah, let's get started. And the first thing is, here a nice picture of Utrecht University Library, and again, the starting point for Lean Library was when we realized at Utrecht University Library that the library is not the starting point for students, maybe not anymore, and that's not per se a deliberate choice from patrons. Patrons don't want to start away from the library; they just do. And I don't want to go too deep into the whys right now, but it's just a change in behavior that we see with patrons starting out at Google Scholar, just diving into database directly, clicking links to articles on publishers' platforms, and not using the library as a jump-off point anymore. And again, at Utrecht University, we were thinking about, do we still need to spend all of that time and resources on that discovery service, that really expensive thing that really is that starting point at the library? And also, can we somehow help those patrons in other ways? And the fact that they're not starting out at the library anymore leads to quite a lot of issues. And I'll showcase just a few of those. Imagine, for instance, if you're a patron and you land on this page from ScienceDirect, a really interesting article, and yeah, you'll run into a few issues. Does your library have a license for ScienceDirect? Probably they will. And if your library has a license for ScienceDirect, how are you going to get authenticated on ScienceDirect right now? If you're on campus, usually in an academic setting, then that's no issue because you'll be recognized through the IP address. But if you're not, how do you need to get access? And even on campus and off campus might be cumbersome, because if you're on the VPN, then technically you're seen as on campus, even though you might be half across the world. Or you're in the coffee shop and then you're being seen as a guest user and you're not on campus, even though you physically are. So it can be really, really difficult for a patron. And also there's no library presence, so there's no immediate way to see that the library could absolutely help you out over here. And again, as librarians, all of these things might seem very trivial and very obvious, but if you're an 18-year-old patron and you're just starting out with your study, then this is quite difficult, can be quite confusing. And again, so yeah, how do you find out if there's a license? And even if you do, what kind of authentication method should you use? Should you use OpenAthens, Shibboleth, proxy, VPN? And even if you see all of these terms, how do you know what they mean? Quite difficult sometimes. And the same thing here. So on Taylor and Francis, for instance, you've decided that you want to try to get access. You've decided that you want to try to get logged in. And there's a whole range of things that you can do. You can log in through Shibboleth, through OpenAthens, log in with your personal Taylor and Francis online account? Is that the same thing as your university account? Or maybe you just need to use Easy Proxy. And how are you going to figure out which method to use? And yeah, and maybe you're doing all of these things in vain because maybe your library doesn't even have a license on Taylor and Francis. And the same thing here, other issues that might arise by not starting out at the library. You're looking at this really interesting article and the publisher says, well, it's just $47 for maybe 48 hours. And what are you going to do? You really want to have access to this article, and sometimes we know that patrons will simply pay to get access to this article, even though maybe this exact same article is available somewhere else. And for me, when I started working at Utrecht University Library, that was really, really complicated. Just the fact that one article could be available on different locations and it's the exact same article. Why is that even the case? And I was working at the library. Imagine again, if you're an 18-year-old student and you're trying to figure it out. And we know that people will just sometimes happily pay because they need access to articles like these. So what we did at Utrecht University Library, I came up with the idea of building a browser extension. I thought, well, specifically with authenticating through Easy Proxy, what if it's so very complicated? Can't we just in the browser tell people that a specific domain can be opened through Easy Proxy and then just help them do that? And I'll show you a very brief video of one of the early prototypes that we came up with and what that actually looked like. And this is Easy Proxy. We talked about OpenAthens soon, of course. But what I'm going to show you is I'll just open JSTOR, and you'll see that I'm automatically redirected through to JSTOR through the proxy. And this is what that looks like. JSTOR.org in the address bar, and you'll see automatically rewritten to a proxied link. And what also happens is there's a notification telling me that I'm redirected automatically. There's a logo, and this is a very rudimentary prototype, a very early version, but a logo of the library telling me what just happened, telling me that I've been redirected and I have now access to more stuff on this website. And the nice thing is I didn't have to know. I didn't have to know whether JSTOR was one of those domains that could be opened through the library. I could just go to JSTOR and it would just happen automatically. And when we built a prototype like that at Utrecht University Library, we did ask for a lot of user feedback, and this was one of the quotes that we got: "It improves my search for articles 1,000 times. You've taken away a most hated hurdle in my life." And yeah, taken for granted, most hated hurdle in my life. It's still relatively small issues, of course, but again, for patrons, it can be quite cumbersome. Because we got so much feedback, and we saw a huge amount of people just being really pleased with using that browser extension. I had a mission to make that software available to more patrons. I thought that loads more people would have these same issues with loads more universities, and I just wanted to fix that. And so what we did is I founded the library. I built it turned it into a startup, and I just had the idea, well, what if a lot of libraries out there just chip in just a little bit of money so we can pay professional developers to turn this into a really thorough professional service. And that's what we did. And we extended the original service where you're only redirected through the proxy a lot with loads of other features. And then we also came up, we also realized that the issues that we were solving specifically with Easy Proxy, the issues where you don't always know that you need to go through Easy Proxy to get access to that content. We realized that those issues were quite similar for people using OpenAthens. With OpenAthens, your library might have licenses for loads of different domains, and you might not always know for which domains you should or would want to go through OpenAthens. So we also built support for OpenAthens into that browser extension. And I'm going to show you in very brief videos a few of those use cases and a few of those examples. I'll start out with simply installing the browser extension itself. A very short process, and you'll see that when I've installed it, I'll choose NHS Mersey Care as my institution. And I just wanted to mention that I just wanted to show you, sometimes we get feedback from librarians where they say, well, it's difficult. It's a difficult process, and patrons aren't going to install something like this because it's too cumbersome. Well, actually, what we're seeing is that it's not an issue at all, and I think Andrew will go into that a little bit as well. It's simply something helpful for end users, and they're, as we've seen, quite willing to install it. You'll also see that once the browser extension has been installed, there's a tiny video, and that will explain a little bit more on how the browser extension actually works for the end user. Just seeing me here is just clicking download, ending to Chrome. And here's the question, select your institute. Please also note that we're not asking for user credentials. We're not asking for usernames or password. The only thing we need to know is the affiliation. And again, in this case, I'm using NHS Mersey Care. And here's a very short introductory video that I'm not going into right now. And now that Lean Library has been installed in my browser, I'll show you what happens when I open up, when I go to, for instance, ScienceDirect. And again, I'm not starting out at the library, not starting out at the library page from NHS Mersey Care. I'll just go into ScienceDirect directly. Open up a new tab, type in ScienceDirect. What happens now is that I'm automatically redirected through the OpenAthens software. And I've landed on ScienceDirect, authenticated through OpenAthens. And what you saw me do is not enter my credentials, because LastPass, I'm using LastPass, a password manager, to enter my credentials, so I don't have to do that every single time manually by myself. But what happened is I opened up ScienceDirect. The browser extension recognized ScienceDirect as a domain that can be authenticated against OpenAthens, and it did so automatically. So again, as an end user, I don't have to know. I don't have to know whether ScienceDirect can be opened through OpenAthens. It just happens automatically. And now that I've authenticated also with OpenAthens, if I open up a new, completely unrelated other domain, you'll see that I'll also automatically be redirected through OpenAthens. And now this time I don't have to enter my credentials anymore. So that it's even a more smooth and more seamless process. You'll see me opening Taylor and Francis. New tab, a link to an article on Taylor and Francis. Automatically redirected through OpenAthens. I don't have to know whether Taylor and Francis can be. And I land on the article page. And now something interesting happens as well. So I've automatically been redirected through OpenAthens. I'm authenticated on a completely different domain. I didn't have to know whether Taylor and Francis could be authenticated. But I land on an article that's actually not licensed by NHS Mersey Care. So what Lean Library does is it scans that page, it knows what article I'm looking at, it checks against the knowledge base from NHS Mersey Care, and it sees that this article is not licensed. So it offers me to request this article through interlibrary loan. Another really useful feature, I think. And show you what we also do in another video. Open up another article on Taylor and Francis. I don't have to go through OpenAthens again because the cookies recognize that I've been authenticated. And we found an open access version of this article. Again, this article itself is not licensed by NHS Mersey Care, but there's at least another way for me as an end user to get this article on my screen. And just one last example where I'm opening up yet another domain on my network, and you'll see that it's also automatically opened through OpenAthens. I don't have to know about this domain, it will just go automatically. And I land on the domain, authenticated again through OpenAthens, with a nice notification telling me what just happened and the fact that I've got access through NHS Mersey Care. And just a very brief overview of the backend of Lean Library. Here you see a list of domains that we need to have to know which can be open through OpenAthens. And what we also do is a statistics dashboard where, as a librarian, you can see what the uptake is of the browser extension itself. And that's what I wanted to show you about Lean Library. And I'll hand over to Andrew, and he'll talk a little bit about implementing Lean Library and about the impact that Lean Library has had with NHS Mersey Care.
Thanks, Johan.
Hi, sorry, just to interject, guys. We're kind of running up to time now. So, Andrew, I don't know if you could just summarise in just a couple of minutes so we can kind of move on.
Yeah, sure. I'll be so quick.
Yeah, great. Because we've just got a very tight schedule. Thank you.
Okay. Well, these are challenges that I face, but they're universal to other libraries. We're a small team of 4 staff in an organisation that's doubled in size to over 7,000 in the last couple of years. Our users are doctors and nurses who don't have PC access, and if they do have PC access, they don't know how to search for content. And in the organisation, we have 120 different sites, so communicating with users, reaching new staff is really challenging for us. Really importantly, and what Johan's just shown you, is that within the NHS, we push all our users through a certain portal, hdas.nice.org.uk, that gives them access to databases such as Medline and PsycInfo. And that's really powerful, but there's lots of content that they can access through that if they search for natively through Google, they just won't find. So next slide, please, Johan. So how it helps us, really critically, it enables us to reach users at the point of need. So people are, as Johan's just shown you, searching for articles using Google, PubMed, Scholar, however they want to search. They'll get notified that they have access to it. They get taken to it or redirected to an open access version. And if they don't have if we don't hold the article, we'll get an inside below request from them. It removes all the barriers, as you've just seen. Users don't have to go through prescribed routes anymore. It's easy, it's quick, and it works. Critically, we can communicate with users. If we have a known problem or an issue with a provider, we can put a notification on the page to say that this provider's down, we can't access this at the moment, or we'll be back tomorrow. And also, we found that over the years, we've tried to increase our access options. So we've got this HDAS, we bought a discovery software. We found that users, doctors were using PubMed, so we put our holdings in PubMed. Students were using Google Scholar, so we put our holdings in Google Scholar. And then we've got 4 links resolvers to maintain, and we're not making it easier for the user, more complicated. So Lean Libraries really kind of streamline that. We don't have to worry about things. The user finds the content. It's easier for the librarian. It's much easier for the students or the user. Next slide, please, Johan. Implementing Lean Library was so easy. Initially, we were updating our holdings by downloading KBART from our EDS and then re-uploading it into Lean. And then that process was automated. And then finally, it's just done automatically through EBSCO Link IQ. So I update our holdings within our EBSCO discovery software, and within, I think, 10 minutes, that changes roll through to Lean. It implements seamlessly with OpenAthens, and as you've seen there, the user doesn't have to authenticate. They can save the password and go straight through. And the installation was seamless. We have it in Mersey Care pre-installed on all of our PCs in work, and we advertise to users so they can download it at home. Next slide, please, Johan. So this is just a real quick snapshot of the impact that Lean had on my little service. So we introduced it May 2019, and just graphically there, you can see the big jump in usage straight from the off. And then beneath that, I've got a table showing you the average monthly usage 6 months before we implemented Lean and 6 months after we implemented Lean. I've just chosen 6 kind of well-known publishers there. But across the board, through every provider that we buy from, we've seen a significant increase, and that increase is sustained. I included Sage there just to show that Lean is a Sage company, but it's platform agnostic, publisher agnostic. So there's no preference given to Sage or anything else. Interestingly, the biggest statistical increase is through EBSCO, and that would be the things that the NHS holds via core content that users would previously have had to access exclusively through that HDAS resource. So it's opening up access that the NHS provides to our users, but they're getting it through different means. So overall, it's just been a tremendous success, and I'm happy to answer any questions if you have time.
And same for me, of course.
Yes, so we do have a few questions to both of you. I don't think we have time to go through them now, so we'll send them across to you to follow up afterwards.
Yes, please.
But yeah, I really liked your shirt, Andrew. I'm sure it looks like you're shopping in the same place as Joe.
I thought that before.
And also the fact that you've used the graphs that we provide to show the success of this collaboration. So really enjoyed that from both of you.